Akainu might very soon be going to Mariejois and fighting Imu. Akainu is currently furious after learning that the world government is planning on sinking the entire world. Yet, he is also presented with a great opportunity. As all of the Gorosei are currently fighting on Egghead Island, Akainu might well take this opportunity and by himself invade the Holy Land to find out what else the government has been hiding from him all this time. This action could however result in him coming face to face with the King of the World himself. Welcome to my One Piece video, where I will discuss Akainu possibly having a fight with Imu this year in the manga. As mentioned at the start, Akainu is not at all pleased at finding out the true nature of the world government. After hearing Vegapunk's broadcast, he himself says that he wants Vegapunk to reveal absolutely everything in this message. Yet, Akainu is being set up for disappointment, as Vegapunk has already revealed that he only knows a fraction of the true history. After this message finally ends, Akainu could take matters into his own hands and try to discover the full story by personally going to Mariejois. There could also be a surprising character who would urge Akainu to make this decision. As of right now, Akainu is more than likely not aware that the world government is actually being ruled by Imu in secret. Still, there could be something or rather someone that will soon make him come to this realization. During the Egghead arc, Sabo has just revealed to Monkey D. Dragon that the world is being ruled by a secret king called Imu. Dragon and the revolutionaries are also right now witnessing Vegapunk's message about the Void Century along with the rest of the world. This means that everything Akainu is currently hearing from Vegapunk is also being heard by Dragon. Or in other words, Dragon knows that Akainu has just heard the truth about the world government. Dragon could actually see this as an opportunity and add more fuel to Akainu's fire. In theory, as crazy as it may sound, there is currently nothing stopping Dragon from calling the Marine HQ and telling Akainu about Imu's existence. The reason why this may sound crazy is because Akainu more than likely hates Dragon. This was seen during Marineford, where Akainu kept trying to kill Luffy only because he was Dragon's son. Because of this, Akainu very likely would not trust a word Dragon would say. Or would he? Even if Akainu hates Dragon, he is more than likely aware that Dragon's entire goal is taking down the Celestial Dragons. And as we've seen in Akainu's reaction to Vegapunk's message, he is practically fuming at what he's now learned of the government's true nature. Dragon would have nothing to lose if he simply called Akainu and told him to go to Pangaea Castle and see for himself if there is a king of the world. Considering that the Marine HQ is right next to the Holy Land, it could only take Akainu a few hours to check if what Dragon says is true, on the off chance that he's not lying. And, as brought up before, Akainu at the moment is dead set on finding out the truth about the government. As interesting as the idea of Dragon telling Akainu about the existence of Imu is, however, it is actually not necessary for the idea of this video to happen. Even without Dragon or anyone urging him on, Akainu himself could very well come to the decision to go to Mariejois. The reason why Akainu would go there could simply be so that he can have a word with the Gorosei about all the evil things they've been doing right under his nose. However, as the Gorosei are currently fighting on Egghead Island, as they were only just summoned there by Saturn a few minutes ago, Akainu might actually not get a chance to talk to them. Yet, this might actually be even better for Akainu. As the Five Elders are not around, he could see this as an opportunity to raid Pangaea Castle, looking for information about everything the government has kept hidden from the world. Akainu might also take things a step further. As brought up before, Akainu at the moment is absolutely furious. Out of every character we've seen react to Vegapunk's message, Akainu is by far the one most angry at the news. This could result in Akainu actually going on a literal rampage in Mariejois. While his main goal could be finding answers, Akainu could also simply want to destroy the Celestial Dragon's home out of pure rage. As the Gorosei wouldn't be present, Imu might actually have to show himself in a situation where Akainu is causing havoc. While the Pangaea Castle has guards, none of them are likely to stop Akainu, as they could not even stop a much weaker character in Sabo. Furthermore, as the Fleet Admiral, Akainu seemingly is one of the few people given access to Pangaea Castle, as we saw with him talking to the Gorosei there at the end of the Dressrosa arc. In theory, Akainu right now could simply go to the castle and start looking for information there without setting off any alarms. This could well leave Imu as the only character who could stop Akainu from tearing the place apart. A meeting between Akainu and Imu could actually be a pivotal point in the One Piece story. Off the bat, it is very likely that Akainu would not approve of Imu. I went over this more broadly in my Marine Rebellion video, but Akainu already has a lot of pent-up frustration with the government and the Celestial Dragons. Now that we've seen his reaction to Vegapunk's message, it is very likely that Akainu discovering that Imu has been ruling the world this entire time would only make him angrier. Likewise, Imu would also probably simply try to eliminate Akainu for discovering his identity. Even though Sakazuki is the fleet admiral and one of the government's most valuable assets, this probably would not matter to him. Imu is someone to whom even the highest ranked celestial dragons bow down to, so he would likely see Akainu as nothing more than a peon even if he is the fleet admiral. As we saw with Cobra and Sabo, Imu is also willing to kill anyone who gets to see him, even if they're a king or if their elimination will require the destruction of an entire country. Unlike Cobra though, Akainu is far more capable of defending himself. A fight between Akainu and Imu could actually be very useful for the story. One of the problems with Imu's character as an antagonist is that, because he's hidden himself throughout the story, we have no idea how strong or threatening he really is. At least in my opinion, antagonists in One Piece generally only become threatening after some display of power. This has virtually happened with every major antagonist in the story, where before their final fight with Luffy, they show just how powerful they are by beating other strong characters. Funny enough, many antagonists in the story managed to do this by beating Luffy himself. The reason why Imu vs Akainu happening now could work is because the story has already done such a good job at showing how much of a force Akainu himself is. To go down the list, Akainu was fighting on an equal level with Whitebeard at Marineford and arguably did most of the damage to him that led to his death. On top of doing this, Akainu also had enough strength to take out Ace, Ivankov, Inazuma, Jinbei and Kuriel. Even at the end of the war before Shanks arrived, Akainu was still strong enough to fight off against most of Whitebeard's commanders and Crocodile without them being able to stop him. Then after the war, Akainu had already recovered enough that he was hunting down the Blackbeard pirates, and even made them flee rather than face him. If all of this wasn't impressive enough, Akainu over the time skip ended up beating Aokichi in single combat. While it's debatable how far or close Akainu is to characters like Shanks and Kaido in strength, his feats have still made him appear as one of the top fighters in the series. With all of this context, it would be a very big statement if Akainu were to receive a humiliating defeat at the hands of another character. Arguably, no character in the story, not even someone as strong as Garp or Luffy, has managed to completely dominate a marine who's reached the rank of an admiral. Just like Shanks' power was displayed by him overwhelming Kid, Imu dominating Akainu could be where he'd finally establish himself as one of the strongest characters in the story. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, you should take this opportunity to magma fist the subscription button. I'm currently in the process of making a lot of videos for the channel and would really appreciate it if you stick around to see what they'll be about. On top of presenting himself as a credible threat, a fight with Akainu could also be where Imu would finally fully introduce himself, meaning the fight would also be the revelation of Imu's face and devil fruit abilities. While both have so far been fairly silhouetted, it is very hard to believe that Imu could be in an extended action sequence while remaining completely in the shadows. For example, the Gorosei's abilities were also initially obscured in shadows, only for them to be revealed on Egghead Island right before the Elders started getting heavily involved in fighting. A fight between Imu and Akainu could also reveal a lot of lore even outside of Imu himself. A lot of One Piece fights actually end up doing this, where they shed more light into both the characters and the world. For example, both Zoro and Sanji's big fights during Wano were accompanied by major revelations about things like named swords, Lunarians and mats. If Imu were to fight Akainu, he could actually end up revealing what the origin story behind the Marine organization is. From what we currently know, the Marines may be as old as the world government itself. They were possibly originally created to fight the threat of pirates, caused by Lily spreading the poneglyphs across the world. Imu could give more details about the Marines, regarding how he views them and how he might have been the one who originally created them. This could happen through a flashback, or Imu could simply outright say the information to Akainu, like he did with Cobra. As a short interlude, Eiichiro Oda revealed in his latest Jump Festa interview that a certain major fight would be happening in One Piece in 2024. I however do not think Imu vs Akainu would be this fight, as my own interpretation of Oda's message is that it's a fight readers have been waiting for a while. I actually have no real prediction on what the fight Oda is referring to could be, as I think it's far too early for fights like Shanks vs Blackbeard. I suppose one interesting idea is that we'll get to see Akainu vs Aokichi in flashback, as that's a fight the manga could theoretically show at any point without it changing the plot. If this video's idea somehow ends up happening, the flashback could even be triggered by Akainu invading Mariejois. Back on the topic of Imu vs Akainu, one point that should be brought up is whether some bystanders would get to witness the fight. Unless Imu would simply surgically take Akainu out in a few seconds, the fight would likely cause quite a bit of noise. And as we've seen with Punk Hazard, when Akainu fights seriously, areas the size of islands may end up becoming collateral damage. What this is leading up to is that the fight would alert the celestial dragons living in the Holy Land. This is very interesting, as currently, the story is making it seem like even most of the celestial dragons are unaware of Imu's existence. For example, Rocinante told not nothing about Imu to Law, even though it's valuable information he should have passed along to a member of the D-clan. Furthermore, characters like Saint Charlos appear way too untrustworthy to share this kind of information with. It would make sense that Imu is also hiding himself from the Celestial Dragons, as he's quite literally usurped the power of their ancestors, the 20 kings. According to Ivankov, Imu is likely one of the 20 original kings who vanquished the ancient kingdom during the Void Century. The official story is that after the war, the 20 kings, whose descendants would become the Celestial Dragons, laid down their weapons before the empty throne, vowing that no one should rule the world by themselves. As Imu goes directly against this vow, it is hard to believe that the Celestial Dragons would be on his side. The ramifications of Imu being revealed to the Celestial Dragons could therefore be huge. If Imu is so adamant about keeping himself hidden, he might even end up slaughtering all the Celestial Dragons who might have seen him. Alternatively, it could also be that the Celestial Dragons realize that their choices are either servitude or death, and bow down to Imu just like the Gorosei do. This would probably make the most sense, as Imu's goals largely align with the Celestial Dragons. Even if Imu wants to sink most of the world, the Celestial Dragons would be safe along with him at the top of the red line. It also appears as if Imu has been satisfied with the arrangement he's had for the past 800 years, where he rules the world as a dictator while the Celestial Dragons live in the Holy Land in luxury. Even if they now know his identity, he might still accept the Celestial Dragons as long as they take him as their king. Furthermore, even though Imu is obsessed with hiding his existence from the world, this may not be the case for Law. On top of the Roger pirates who realize the true history, the world now has two other characters in Wapol and Sabo who know of Imu. These two have also made contact with very influential people in Morgans and Dragon respectively, who could use their influence to spread the word of Imu's existence all across the world. If the Fleet Admiral of the Marines discovers Imu on top of all of these other major characters, Imu might realize that the game is up and that there's no point in hiding himself any further. As said before, the expectation would be for Akainu to lose his fight with Imu. However, this would probably not be the end of Akainu. One Piece fights where characters actually die are fairly rare, especially outside flashbacks. This means that Akainu might still escape the Holy Land even if he loses. Akainu would then more than likely be a direct enemy of the world government and end up on the same list as Sabu and Vivi. At this point, there could also be enough information about Imu in the world that he might finally stop trying to hide himself. It's possible that something like this could actually lead to Imu actively participating in events around the One Piece world in the final saga, just like the other major players like Luffy and Blackbeard. To sum all of this up, Vegapunk's message could anger Akainu enough that he'll go to Pangaea Castle looking for answers from the world government. This could result in an actual fight between Akainu and Imu, as the Gorosei aren't currently present to stop Akainu. The fight itself could provide a lot of lore on the government and the Marines, as well as finally establishing Imu as one of the strongest characters in the story. This video was largely a short sequel video I made to a much longer video about Vegapunk's message causing all of the Marines to rebel against the government. Now that you've watched this video, you should check that out if you want to hear about the civil war that might soon erupt within the world government. Thanks for watching this video to the end.